It is all about leftovers today in the sartorial kitchen. That's right, Thanksgiving leftovers. Today's theme is dressing. I'm taking leftover dressing and making two separate dishes. First, I'm frying them up in a little ball stuffed with mozzarella and serving that over a pumpkin curry made with leftover pumpkin pie. Then I'm making dressing waffles and serving that up with a cranberry pistachio pesto. So why don't you pull up a chair and dine with me?
Welcome back, everybody. Yes, it is that time of year again where I take my leftovers from Thanksgiving and create a whole new set of dishes with them. Although I've been doing a lot of leftovers this season because it's so much fun. But I wanted to do something different, and I thought, I really don't do a lot with stuffing or dressing. So that's what I decided to go with this year. So I got a huge pan of cornbread stuffing that I'm currently reheating, that I'm getting ready to turn into two separate dishes with some accoutrements, all using Thanksgiving staple leftovers. So I'm starting with 4 eggs here, which sounds like a lot, but I've got a lot of leftover stuffing. And I'm cracking those first so I can watch for eggshells. And then we're just gonna give them a little zhuzh to get them started here. And I'm gonna incorporate a lot of air into these eggs. That's really gonna help fluff up our dishes. I'm doing a cornbread waffle, and I'm also doing some little stuffed cornbread balls that I'm gonna fry. And I think that is looking pretty good. Now let me check and see if my stuffing is ready. This is nice and warmed, and you can see it's beautiful and crusty on top. That's how I like my stuffing, with a lot of texture. And this is a homemade cornbread stuffing. I'm going to show you right now how I put that together.
First, I diced up some onion and celery and scraped that into a skillet with 2 tablespoons of butter and oil. Don't forget to season generously and give it a nice stir. Then I added my jarred garlic. You know me and my jarred garlic. Once that was cooked down, I added that to a pan of homemade cornbread that I had broken up into little pieces. Then about 2.5 cups of stock. Gave that a good stir until it was well combined. Another round of seasonings, this time including thyme. Started it with butter on top and threw it into a 350-degree oven for about 45 to 50 minutes until golden brown.
All right, so we're going to take this. I think a spatula will do. I'm just going to kind of break this up. Maybe some smaller pieces here. Doesn't that look beautiful? And then what we're going to do, we're going to blend it up with these eggs until we get a nice little batter. And I'm going to be using the batter for 2 different things. We're going to be making some waffles with a cranberry pesto. It's going to be a play on chicken and waffles, but it'll be turkey and waffles. And then I'm also going to do some little fried balls with some cheese inside and serve that over a little pumpkin curry of sorts. It's going to be so delicious. So we're going to start here, and I may not use all of this immediately, but I want to get this, I'm going to start blending this first and see how that turns out. I want to go okay, we can add a little more of this now. Perfect. And continue to mix it up. Okay, I think we are good there. Clean out our beater, just don't waste any of this good batter here. Perfect. Okay, and this is kind of the consistency you're looking for there. It's a little clumpy, it holds together. Beautiful. So I think I'm going to prep the balls first. And then we can see what we have left for our waffles. So I'm gonna do a little station here, and I can reuse this pan. I'm gonna put them together and set them up in the fridge so they get nice and firm before I go to fry them up. So I've got some mozzarella pearls here. They are my favorite, of course. And then I've got some panko, because I want these to have some nice texture when I fry them. And then when they set up, we can start on our pumpkin curry sauce. Yeah, so we'll just cut these open here. And I like the mozzarella pearls because they're like the perfect size. I probably won't even use all of them, but I'm just going to grab a couple small pieces, grab a little of my batter here, roll that together until you get a nice little ball, just like that. And then I just give it a little roll around in the panko. Doesn't have to be perfect. And there we are. And then we move on to our next one. Alright, I got about 16 balls here. I'm going to go set these in my fridge, clean this up, and we'll get started on our pumpkin sauce. Alright, time to make our little pumpkin curry. So for that, I'm using some leftover pumpkin pie that I'm going to jazz up here with some nice warming flavors. So I'm going to start with a little butter. A couple tablespoons of butter and a couple tablespoons of oil here. And we're going to toast our spices. It's going to give us even more flavor. So I've got all my spices here. Now what's great about the pumpkin pie, it's already got cloves and cinnamon and nutmeg in it, which is great warming spices, but they're kind of sweet warming spices. So I've got some savory things here. Of course, you can't have a curry without curry powder. So I'm going to get a couple teaspoons of that in there because I want this to be really flavorful. And that curry, you can smell it, it's so fragrant. And curry powder, it's actually a combination of spices. There's all different kinds of curries. There's green curries and red curries. I'm also going to add a little cumin, about the same amount. And then I've got some garlic powder, some onion powder. Again, about the same amount. Fresh cracked pepper. I like the cracked pepper because it gives us more of a smokiness than your kind of table seasoning pepper. And just crack a good amount of that in here. And then what I like, the butter and the oil just kind of browns a little bit. And just really toast these spices and creates a nice flavor base. And then of course some salt. We're going to round this out with some salt. Just kind of stir that together until it melts. And you'll kind of smell those kind of raw spice flavors cook out. Then we can toss in our pumpkin. In the meantime, I'm melting down some fat here. And I'm going to fry our balls in. I don't want this pan to be too hot because I want it to cook through before it gets too done on the outside. And you can see that is just bubbling away, and this is just a nice, typical kind of Indian spice base. We can turn that down a little. Once it starts to bubble up and get that nice, rich kind of caramel color, we can go ahead and start adding in our pumpkin. So this is just filling from leftover pumpkin pie. That is all this is. I'm saving the crust as well because I'm going to use that as a thickener for my sauce. But I just want the filling here. I'm using about half of a pumpkin pie. That's what I had left. You may need a little more, you may need a little less. Just depends on how much you're making here. And just get all that in. If you get a little bit of crust, that's fine, but the bulk of it I'm gonna save as a thickener. And then I'm just gonna come in here with my spoon and just kind of mash this up and stir it around and just really get that flavor base incorporated into that pumpkin. Oh, that looks so good, guys. Oh, so good. Okay. All right, so I've got that stirred in, and then I just let the pumpkin cook for a good 4 to 5 minutes, just so it gets nice and warmed and really has time to absorb those flavors. Then we can add our coconut milk. This is going to give a nice richness and some body and really kind of help thin things out. I just slowly incorporate that in. You can use any kind of cream you like, really, but coconut cream is kind of customary for this. And just 1 can of that. And just kind of slowly stir that in until that pumpkin kind of melds together with it. Okay. All right, that's coming together nicely. Last but not least, I've got some stock here. This is turkey stock that I've made. I make this every year. People save me their carcasses. I always make soups, I make bone broths. That's about a couple quarts. I'm just gonna stir that in. That's gonna really make this nice and rich and give it some body and stretch it out. I'm just gonna continue to stir that until that's incorporated. All right, that's starting to look really good, guys. So I'm gonna come in here and give it a little taste. Oh gosh, it's sweet, but then there's that little lingering back note of heat. Not too spicy. Of course, if you wanted to, you could add more curry. You could even add like some cayenne or some sriracha just to like really give it a nice heat. But it's still a little thin, so I think it's time for a pie crust. So I've got the pie crust I've broken up. And a lot of times you'll see I use a mixture of butter and flour to thicken soups and stews and things. Well, what is pie crust but butter and flour? So I think that's gonna be perfect here. I'm gonna use this whole crust because we've got a lot here. Make sure we get it up from off the bottom of the pan. Beautiful. And get rid of that guy there. And I'm gonna turn this down to low since it's already hot. And I wanna check my oil too while we're at it. Just get a little water there on the fingertips, and that sounds pretty good. So before I puree that up, let's get our balls out and start frying them up. I may even turn this down slightly because I don't want the oil to be too hot. And just gently plop these down into the oil. The trick to the oil, getting it the right temperature. If it's too hot, they burn, and the inside's cold or raw. If the oil's not hot enough, then it just soaks it up like a sponge and you get a really greasy mess. And it's also key to not crowd the skillet. Otherwise, they steam instead of fry. So I think that's a good start for now. And then I'm gonna come in here and puree our pie crust. You can use a blender, you can use a food processor, but I like my immersion blender. It makes things so easy. Okay, let's take this baby out, and then I'm gonna give it another little stir here. Oh, perfect, look at that consistency. That's gonna be a beautiful accoutrement for our balls. And speaking of balls, these are ready to flip, I believe. Oh yeah, look at that, nice and golden brown. So I can turn the heat off of that. I'll let it kind of mellow out there for a minute while we fry up the rest of our balls. I do believe these babies are ready to come out. I got a little plate here and some paper towels to drain the grease. We do not want greasy balls. So good. While those are still hot, I want to hit them with just a little salt. It's the best time to season, when things are good and hot. And then I'm going to drop in the rest of my balls here. And then while these fry up, I'll show you how I plate this. Alright, a little tasting plate will do. And then what I'm going to do is grab some of our sauce here and just paint the plate. Give us a little, and you can take some more if you want. Just a nice little aisleway. And then I think 2 balls are good for now. Just plop those in the middle. Just like that. And then if you want it to, you could take and just drizzle a little around the plate and on top. Just like that. Clean any extra there off the side. If you wanted to get fancy, you could throw on some fresh herbs, some parsley or cilantro, whatever you like. But there we have it. Alright, let's get a fork and crack into these and listen to that crunch from the panko, and then you can see that mozzarella just oozing out beautifully. I'm a fiend when it comes to mozzarella, especially if it's fresh. Oh, guys, this smells so good. Yeah, so the stuffing is still nice and moist, very soft. Then you have the crunch on the outside of the panko. There's a nice textural component. This pumpkin sauce, though, I'm going to have to remember how I made that. It was a bit of an experiment, and it was delicious. Just so sweet. Immediately, you get sweet. And then you give it a second, and your mouth starts to tingle with that curry and everything. Oh. Guys, I can't even. Okay. Well, I'm going to finish frying these up, and then we'll move on to our waffles. So stay tuned. Alright, those balls were delicious. The pumpkin even more so. But now it's time to move on to our waffles, and I'm serving those. It's going to be a turkey and waffle play on a chicken and waffles. And I'm serving that with a cranberry pesto sauce. So pesto sauce, it's really just herbs and nuts that you blend. You can put anything you want in it. For this, I'm using pistachio because I feel like it goes really well with what I'm doing here. And I've just shelled some pistachios and just toasted them up a little bit in my skillet just so they get nice and darkened on them. That's just going to add to the flavor. I'm going to go right into my food processor. And to that, actually, I'm going to give it a little pulse first until they kind of start to break up a little. Okay, that's good for now. To that, I've got some parsley here. This is Italian flat leaf parsley. Again, you can use any herb you like. Basil's traditional. But with this being cranberry, I wanted something a little different. And this is just like one big bundle. I'm going to try and watch for any big pieces of stem. It's okay, little pieces get in there because we're blending it up. And then get the rest of those leaves there. Lid goes back on, and we put that together. Now you've almost got like a little nut herb topping. But we aren't finished yet. Next are cranberries. So this is leftover cranberry relish I had. What I did is just strained it to get the kind of gelled part of it out and just leave me with the actual fruit. Oh, it looks so good. And I always use the real fruit cranberry sauce when I serve for Thanksgiving, not that gelled stuff shaped like a can. So there's that. I also want some orange zest. Pesto usually has some kind of zest in it and juice of citrus. Typically lemon when you're using basil, doing a traditional basil pesto. But I really like the way orange goes with cranberry. And the zest is going to add a nice fragrant kind of floral quality. Should really give it a nice zing. I'm going to zest about half this orange. Should give me about a teaspoon and a half. That looks pretty good, actually. Then we take the back for stragglers. And then, of course, I'm going to juice this as well. So I'll cut this in half. And just come in here, give that a nice big squeeze. That juice is going to help break all this down into more of a sauce, so it's not quite as chunky. And then this orange. If you have a juicer, that's even better, but I have a pretty tight grip. This should do just fine. It's going to give us a couple tablespoons of juice at least. Just enough to kind of thin that out a little. We'll give it another little pulse here. And while we pulse that, I'm going to start drizzling in my olive oil. Just slowly. Until I start to see the consistency I'm looking for here. And I think that's pretty good, actually. All right, that comes off again. Parmesan cheese is customary for this dish, but I thought the feta would add a nice little salty note, and I like to utilize leftovers. And I had a container of feta leftovers, so I figured let's give it a whirl. And then I am still going to come in here with a little salt, just to kind of balance everything out. And then, of course, some pepper. Salt and pepper go hand in hand. And just a little pepper as well. And then we're going to blend this up one last time. And if we need to add any more olive oil, we can. And make that just a little more. Let's see here. Yes, that looks pretty good. We don't want it too thick or too thin. I do want it to still kind of have some texture to it. So I would say all in all, that's pretty good. And I just want to taste it and make sure it doesn't need anything else. Oh yeah, nice and rich and sweet. From the cranberry, you get the nuttiness of the pistachio. Almost like a pistachio butter. I am going to add just a little more salt and a little more pepper, and give it a couple more pulses and we should be good to go. Okay, now we can get started on our waffles. All right, you know how they say time to make the donuts? Well, time to make the waffles. So I've got this adorable little mini waffle iron here. I love finding uses for, and I thought this would be a really fun one. So I'm just doing a little olive oil spray to keep this from sticking. And I'm going to get a nice heaping scoopful of my batter. And just kind of press that down. This is already good and hot. You can hear it sizzling. It's going to cook for about a couple minutes, and we'll check it. In the meantime, it's a mixture of white and dark meat turkey that I have left over. Some of it is things I pulled off the carcass, and I'm going to show you how I reheat this. So it's nice and warm, but it stays moist and juicy. So if you'll notice, I've got a pot of water going here. Not quite as hot as a boil, but a nice simmer. I'm going to drop this bag right in. In French cooking, they call this sous vide. You slowly let your meat cook, come up to temp. It gives you an internal temperature as well as external. And then the bag's going to allow the meat to kind of steam. And I will actually want to let a little air into the bag. The meat's just going to kind of cook itself. All right. Oh, that's gorgeous. Nice and golden brown. And I'm just going to carefully lift it out of here. Beautiful. I've got a nice little plate to set that on. And then we'll come in here with another big scoop. And press that down. Let that go. These are starting to look really good. I think I have enough to make a couple more. And go ahead and drop this down. And let's check our meat. Pull that off. Oh yeah, look. Pop that bag open. You can see the condensation in there and the steam billowing out. That is nice and good and warmed. And that meat is still soft and tender and juicy. Perfect way to reheat. So I finished cooking these two. Let's plate this baby up. This time I'm going for a medium-sized plate. And I'm going to grab a couple waffles here, just like so. And then, just like before, we start a little of our little pistachio butter here, or cranberry pesto. And just kind of paint it on like you would like mayonnaise on a sandwich. And then might actually angle this a little bit, kind of stack it. Then we'll take some of our turkey here. Oh yeah, it's good and hot. Just kind of pile that on. And a couple more pieces. And then we'll just drizzle a little sauce on top. Not too much. So that looks pretty good there. And then I've also got some of the pistachio I saved and crumbled up, just to give a little crunch topping. And does that not look good or what? I am ready to dig it. Time to come in and give this a taste. Oh, it looks so good. God. The waffle, it's nice and moist. Firm. Any little texture from the outside of that getting dark. The turkey. I'm telling you, that's the perfect way to reheat your turkey. It is so juicy and tender. Turkey can dry out so easily. And this pistachio butter cranberry pesto concoction. Again, another experiment. It's so good though. It's sweet, but then there's some savory notes. And then you get that nice little kick of acid from the orange. It's a perfect little sweet savory. I love the texture and the pistachios. Oh my gosh, guys. I can't stand it. Well, I'm going to finish up here, but I want to thank you guys for joining me as always. Like and subscribe. Hit me up in the comment section. And until next time, bye.
Happy Thanksgiving from the Sartorial Chef.